Hello again, and welcome to day 3 of week 30 of the Religious Education Initiative readings. Uh, this week we're shifting forward, we're skipping ahead in the Gospel of Luke as we continue our way through Great Lent and start to approach Holy Week. We want to read the accounts of the Lord's crucifixion as we come up to Holy Week. So we're going to skip ahead, and then after Easter we'll return and pick up where we left off. So last time we read from Luke chapter 11, where Jesus was beginning to speak to the people, and especially to the religious leaders, about how their opportunity to receive the gospel and accept the kingdom of God, that opportunity was almost at an end. The door was closing. From Luke chapter 12 through chapter 18, we see several other miracles that Jesus did and parables that he told as he moves toward Jerusalem and his passion. In Luke chapter 19, he enters Jerusalem on Palm Sunday, and in Luke 20 and 21 show him preaching there in Jerusalem. Now, as we start to approach Holy Week and Pascha, as we said, we're jumping ahead to that point so that we'll arrive at the crucifixion and resurrection by Holy Week. So we're starting here in Luke chapter 22, which is right after his preaching and teaching in Jerusalem and really moving through the narrative towards the crucifixion. So Luke chapter 22. Now the festival of unleavened bread, which is called the Passover, was near. The chief priests and the scribes were looking for a way to put Jesus to death, for they were afraid of the people. Then Satan entered into Judas, called Iscariot, who was one of the 12. He went away and conferred with the chief priests and officers of the temple police about how he might betray him to them. They were greatly pleased and agreed to give him money. So he consented and began to look for an opportunity to betray him to them when no crowd was present. Then came the day of unleavened bread, on which the Passover lamb had to be sacrificed. So Jesus sent Peter and John, saying, "Go and prepare the Passover meal for us, that we may eat it." They asked him, "Where do you want us to make preparations for it?" "Listen," he said to them, "when you have entered the city, a man carrying a jar of water will meet you. Follow him into the house he enters, and say to the owner of the house, 'The teacher asks you, where is the guest room where I may eat the Passover with my disciples?' He will show you a large room upstairs, already furnished. Make preparations for us there." So they went and found everything as he had told them, and they prepared the Passover meal. When the hour came, he took his place at the table, and the apostles with him. He said to them, "I have eagerly desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer, for I tell you, I will not eat it until it is fulfilled in the kingdom of God." Then he took a cup, and after giving thanks, he said, "Take this and divide it among yourselves, for I tell you that from now on I will not drink of the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of God comes." Then he took a loaf of bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and gave it to them, saying, "This is my body, which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." And he did the same with the cup after supper, saying, "This cup that is poured out for you is the new covenant in my blood. But see, the one who betrays me is with me, and his hand is on the table. For the Son of Man is going as it has been determined, but woe to that one by whom he is betrayed." Then they began to ask one another which one of them it could be who would do this. A dispute also arose among them as to which one of them was to be regarded as the greatest. But he said to them, "The kings of the Gentiles lord it over them, and those in authority over them are called benefactors. But not so with you. Rather, the greatest among you must become like the youngest, and the leader like one who serves. For who is greater, the one who is at the table or the one who serves? Is it not the one at the table? But I am among you as one who serves. You are those who have stood by me in my trials, and I confer on you, just as my Father has conferred on me, a kingdom, so that you may eat and drink at my table in my kingdom, and you will sit on thrones judging the 12 tribes of Israel. Now, there's a lot that we could say about this. This is the institution of the Eucharist. This is the first communion. This is the foreshadowing, really the beginning of the weekly sacrament of the Lord's Day of Holy Communion that has been celebrated ever since this time, every Sunday at the very least. But more than that, I want to kind of make a connection with what we've been reading in the Old Testament. And that last line where he tells the 12 apostles that they will judge the 12 tribes of Israel, there's a strong sense here, and it really struck me forcefully this time, that everything Jesus has been doing with his preaching is establishing once again a people of God that he is calling out from where they have been and urging them to follow him. He's doing exactly the same thing that we saw him doing in the Old Testament, leading the children of Israel out of slavery, making them a new people called by his name, protecting them, feeding them, guiding them, and showing them what to do, and calling them to be like him, to follow him, to be his particular people. In the reading this week, we see how they ultimately fail at that. They've seen so many miracles, the Hebrew people in the Old Testament, and yet they are unable to trust him when it comes to a moment where they need to trust him. Now, the apostles aren't perfect. As we go through, we're going to see them doubt and fall away and run away. But for the moment, we see them, really it's very striking. They ask him where they're going to eat the Passover, and he tells them just to go into the city, and they'll see a guy, and he'll be carrying a jar of water. They're supposed to follow him and ask. He tells them the way the whole conversation will go. They believe him. They go in, they follow the guy, and it plays out exactly as he told them that it would. And that's where they celebrate the Passover. So sometimes, I guess, first of all, we can say it makes sense that the apostles are the ones who will judge the 12 tribes of Israel. They're called out from among the tribes of Israel. They are that continuation of the priestly people that God is making. But they're getting it right so far. They are believing him, they're trusting him, they're following him. Notable, though, and worth mentioning here, sometimes we read the Old Testament and then we read the New Testament and we think, is this really the same person? How can this be the same God? He seems so angry in the Old Testament and then so gentle in the New Testament. But if we look at just this one piece, God is always, Old Testament and New Testament, telling people, do this, this is how it's going to work, trust me, follow me, and you will see miraculous things. I will take care of you. Jesus does this in the New Testament. Jesus does this in the Old Testament as well. Even when he sends the spies into the promised land to see how great of a task it is that he's going to send them to do. How they couldn't possibly do it without him. But if they trust him, all will be well. That time, they failed the test. This time, the apostles passed the test. But it's the same sort of test, because it's the same Jesus. That I think is, that jumped out to me, especially on this reading. So, there's a lot more there. I hope you all enjoy your conversation. If you have questions, call me, email me, something me. I'm happy to talk more. But for now, have a wonderful day. God bless you. See you next week for week 31.